Hi and welcome to this video where we'll be discussing the topic webinar funnels, what it is and how we can use it. So first off, let's talk about the agenda for this video. The concept about webinar funnels is fairly simple, so we will cover how the concept works and then follow up by how you can use it. So I guess that this video will be about 15 to 20 minutes long, no longer than that. It may also be shorter, due to the concept and how this all works being fairly simple, and that we've covered the concept around the traditional funnel, sales funnel, in another video that you can view in our resources or events page. So the concept, as a normal funnel, it all starts with traffic. This traffic can either be free traffic or paid traffic from sources like Facebook, Bing ads, Google AdWords, organic traffic from Google, from Instagram, from Snapchat, from Messenger. The traffic can come from various places. It can even come from your own blog, it can come from forums, from YouTube, from Vimeo. You can basically get traffic from anywhere. And the concept is that you send this traffic to a capture page. Or in this case, it would be a registration page. A page promoting the webinar that you want to hold, and that this page do one task, and that is intrigue people, get them interested, and make them sign up for the webinar. So this way you collect emails, and this is followed up by them seeing the webinar, the presentation of the topic that you want to discuss, which could be like anything that you are capable and knowledgeable about. So the webinar can be held with different platforms or softwares or services that you can find online. I personally prefer using Google Live, not Google Hangouts or YouTube Live, due to the fact that they're free, as well as you can get unlimited people viewing it. So I've actually seen this one guy hosting a live stream on YouTube that had over 100,000 views. So the potential with YouTube Live is tremendous. So, and that follows up by, or the webinar is wrapped up by you promoting something. Typically a paid product or a service or an offer that you have in your main business. So this works like some sort of upsell, and it can be any type of ticket product. So by any type of ticket product, I mean that you can promote products or offers or services within any price range. It could be like a couple of dollars, it can be $100, $1,000, several $1,000. It all depends on what you're comfortable about promoting. I personally would go for something about between $100 and $500 due to the price to acquire a lead that actually attends the webinar is fairly high compared to just running people through a typical and normal funnel. So webinar traffic is often more expensive, but webinar is the best method to increase conversions. So with that being said, you have to evaluate what type of funnel you want to use. I personally would recommend that you try and experiment with different funnels so that you can see what works the best for you. If either a webinar funnel works great or a traditional just capture page, sales page, email sequence, upsell, if that funnel works great for you, go ahead. But I recommend that you try so that you can filter out the type of funnel or the type of setup that doesn't work great with your business or with your offer or services. But there is one thing in this like stream of traffic, and that is between the capture page and the webinar. Often you have scheduled a webinar that is, let's say it's Monday today, and I arrive on the capture page and I see that the webinar will be held on Friday at 3 p.m. Then you would sign up, and then you will often go to a thank you page which says, where I would recommend you to have like a video of yourself welcoming the people to the webinar that will be held on Friday at 3 p.m. and give them like more information about what the webinar will cover, like the topics, the methods, and this video should do two things. It should welcome people, and it should also encourage people and intrigue them and make them interested and stoked and really ready for Friday to come. But as there are a couple of days in between, you want to set up an email sequence so that they know when, or they get a reminder that, hey, the webinar is starting in a couple of hours, so in 1 hour, in 50 minutes, click this link below to go to the webinar. So you want to like add some sort of email reminder so that if someone's registered for the webinar on a week ahead, 2 weeks ahead, a couple of days ahead, that you want to remind them that the webinar will be held like in different time intervals. I often do like 24 hours, 6 hours, and then 1 hour or 5 minutes ahead, so that people will get the email and will get the chance to actually open and read the email. If like I were registering for this webinar on early Monday, on Monday morning, sorry, and the webinar wasn't until Friday, and I had a really hectic week, then I may miss the webinar. I didn't remember it. So there are a couple of ways to approach this. You send a welcome email. Congratulations, you have registered for the webinar on Friday at 3 p.m. Make sure that you put it on your calendar, and you would have like a save to calendar option, and then you would also have a link. Once Friday comes, make sure to click this link so that you can actually join us, because we have limited seats, if you have limited seats. And then I would do like 24 hours before the webinar, so at 3 p.m. on Thursday, I would have, hey, we will start off the webinar in 24 hours. Make sure you don't miss it. And then on Friday, like let's say 9 a.m., I would send another email and say, hey, you still remember the webinar, right? We start in six hours. And then like half an hour before, like 2:30 p.m., we start in half an hour. Make sure that you click the link below and join, because you don't want to miss out on this. And then you can have like a reminder or like a replay option, so that for people that didn't attend the webinar, you can send them, those guys or those people, another webinar that says, hey, sorry to see that you missed the webinar. Click the link below to see a replay so that you can see it as well. Because there is one important thing when it comes to building like a relationship over email, and that is you want to come off as a person that wants everyone the best, or the best of. What I mean is that you want to come off as a person that want to help other people, and sincerely in doing so. So the reminder, like the replay option, is a great way if you have subscribers from different time zones around the world. So let's say that you will hold a webinar at 3 p.m. your time, but for some of your subscribers it's like midnight or 5 a.m. or 1 a.m. or 3 a.m. So those people won't have the opportunity to join due to they're actually sleeping. So the replay option is a great way to build like even more trust, or making it easier for your subscribers to actually view your content, not dependent on time zones. And this is a great way to like push user-friendly setup through your business model and through your email and all of that. So this is basically the outline of how a funnel works and a webinar funnel. And there are other ways to do this as well. You can have like from the capture page directly to a replay of a webinar. So if you held a webinar like last Friday and it's Monday now, you can set up like a advertising campaign and the entire funnel, and then advertise and send people through the registration page, which is a capture page, and then to a page where they are able to view the replay. So that's the concept, and let's talk more about how you want to set it up. We like what tools, what traffic sources, basically. So let's get to that. So it all starts with you deciding on a topic. What kind of topic do you want to talk about? What kind of niche or what kind of product do you want to promote? And things like that. And it is important to like map out the different topics that you are comfortable talking about for at least 30 minutes. A webinar is typically between 30 minutes to 1.5 hours, depending on how long the Q&A part is, because that is one important part about building a webinar. And you start off typically by, some people do the introduction first, but I like to prefer presenting a problem, presenting some pain or something that the viewer most likely want to get solved or feel relate to them. So by doing this, you let people know immediately that, okay, in this webinar I will learn something. In this webinar I will get useful information. In this webinar I will learn something that may help me tackle the problem that I'm facing at work. In this webinar I will maybe learn, in this webinar I will most likely learn how to face a problem that I have been facing for the last time, or last month, last week, So you see the picture that presenting the problem, the pain, the job, and all of that in the beginning makes them stay longer, basically. And then you can go on ahead by, okay, we will talk about this, I am that person, talk more about yourself, why you're qualified, and then talk about some stories, and then talk about some techniques, and then come up with the promotion at the end. And after you've built like the layout for your webinar, you want to set a date. Okay, who are my subscribers? Who am I targeting? Are you living in Europe and your target is in Europe? That's fine. Set a date that is where most people in Europe are available, and that's most likely during evening, after dinner, or before dinner. Most likely not before dinner, because it's pretty hectic between 4 and dinner time, after work and dinner time, because you have to go and shop groceries, go to the grocery store and make dinner and then eat. So it's preferably after dinner. So after like the food is in the body, people are relaxed, they probably normally turn on the TV and relax a couple hours and then go to bed. So instead of them actually sitting in front of the TV doing nothing productive, you can invite them to the webinar. So you want to analyze first who's your audience, what time zones do they live in, and what's the best time for them to view the webinar, and are you available and able to hold a webinar at that hour in your time zone. So setting the date and time is pretty important due to you don't want your webinar to conflict with other things that people do in their everyday life from day to day. After you have decided on a topic, you set a date and time that is best for all of you, you want to build out the funnel. And then you have what I've showed in the previous slide with the traffic source, the capture page, the webinar page, the upsell, and the emails. So you basically want to decide on the traffic source. Do you have a Facebook page with a lot of followers? Great, leverage that page. Do you have an Instagram account or profile with several thousand followers or 100,000, 10,000? Great, use that profile. You should use the things that you have available. So if you don't have any of that, you can decide on, okay, should I promote it on Facebook groups? Should I go with Facebook ads, Bing ads, Google AdWords? In my opinion, if you have a low budget, I would recommend doing Bing ads, primarily due to the low price of Bing ads and that you can get the leads really cheap. But if you have a more narrow audience, like a super sub niche or a super deep niche that isn't big at all, then Facebook may be a great alternative due to the really great tool or the really great features and options that you have with targeting on Facebook ads. And what I believe in is that for all advertisement that you do, you want to pre-qualify the audience in your targeting strategy and add as much as possible. The reason for doing this is because you want to make sure that you have done everything in your power and everything possible to increase the buyer percentage of your audience. So if you, let's say that you don't narrow it down so much and you don't pre-qualify as good as you want, then let's say that you have an audience with about 1 or 0.5 to 1% buyers. But if you do the the 0.5 to 1% buyers, let's say that that's about 100,000 people. Then let's do the pre-qualifying. By actually being able to pre-qualify, you narrow it down to, let's say, 30,000. So 70,000 people out of the picture. So now your audience and your segment is 30,000. But the buyer's rate is a lot higher. So now you're between 5 and... no, let's actually say that you have reached an amount that the offer that you have is so interesting for about 10 to 15% of those 30,000. So it's possible that about 10% purchase. And if you do the math, 0.5 to 1% of 100,000 is 500 to 1,000 people. Out of 30,000, 10% is 3,000. So that's about 3 to 6 times bigger than without pre-qualifying. These numbers are, of course, just picked out of the sky, but you get the picture. You want to pre-qualify so that you have increased chance of getting buyers in your audience rather than freebie chasers. After you've decided on the traffic source, you want to build out the funnel. So you can do one of two things. You can do a replay of a webinar that you already hold or had, or a webinar that you will hold. I recommend the latter one due to you want to hold it live by actually having the opportunity to do a questions and answers part, and this is what I found to work great. So after you decide on that one, you want to set up the website where you will hold the webinar, you want to set up the emails, like I told you before, the welcome email. You want to set up the reminder emails, and you also want to set up the replay email. And when it comes to the webinar website, I want you to record a video where you say, thanks for registering for this webinar. It will be held on that time, that day, that time, and that hour. Make sure to book it in your calendar, and then talk more about what the webinar will cover. And then when the webinar comes, you want to hold it, and you want to host the webinar, run it, do the setup that I talked about earlier, where you start with a problem, then you present a topic, and the agenda, yourself, some stories, some techniques, and then do the upsell. So that's how you hold a webinar and build a webinar funnel in order to generate sales and get customers, get clients, get members for your membership program. So that's it for this video about webinar funnels. And the video is brought to you by SocialUpcoming and Harold Roine, the founder and creator.